Hi, my name's Katie Belt, as the MC would have said, and I'm here to talk about the Home Together program and how it's increasing equity and access for vulnerable pet owners through veterinary social work. But first, I want to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of this unceded land where I'm recording today. I pay my respects to elders past and present and recognise their deep care for country, community, and all living beings. I honour the wisdom of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people in recognising that animals are not separate from humans, but part of an interconnected ecosystem where the health of one impacts the health of all. And in this spirit, I too commit to nurturing and protecting all life within our shared space. So to tell you a bit about me, I've been a qualified social worker for 8 years now, and for the past 2, I've been applying that experience to animal welfare in developing and facilitating the Home Together program. I'm really excited to share what we do and why it matters. The Home Together program was created with a vision to approach animal welfare and the challenge of overflowing shelters differently, aiming to prevent surrenders and keep pet families together through tailored support during times of crisis and hardship. As a social worker and animal lover, I'm committed to reducing human suffering and enhancing the well-being of animals. The beauty of the Home Together program is it enables me to do both. My focus is on helping people who are at risk of surrendering their pet, addressing the barriers they're facing and accessing support. Essentially, helping people more to help more pets. And this is Steve, one of the many cute animals I've snuck a cuddle from as a self-care break at work. Today, I'll be doing my best to give you a picture of how social work can support animal welfare. We'll look at what social work is, the barriers people face when they're at risk of surrendering their pets, and the interventions that help. I'll share how the Home Together program works, some success stories, and then finish with the bigger picture, the gaps, challenges, and key takeaways for our sector. You might be thinking, what has social work got to do with animal welfare? Well, the Lost Dogs Home identified that almost half of surrenders to our shelter were linked to the pet guardian experiencing hardship, and that a social worker could be well placed to fill this support gap. With a 3-year grant from the Petstock Foundation, we launched Home Together as a pilot program. The shelter system was built with a one-size-fits-all approach, and the people and pets who tend to fall through the cracks are facing complex challenges, like homelessness, family violence, or financial hardship. This cohort of people is steadily growing as the cost of living and housing crisis continues to worsen. Many will say if you don't have the means to care for your pet, you shouldn't have one, but it's precisely because their situations are so difficult that they require the love and companionship of their pet the most. Without support, we will see more surrenders, more unclaimed pets, and more families distressed and disconnected. In Home Together, we want to fill gaps, build bridges, and better connect pet families to the services that exist while advocating for the ones that don't. This is what social work brings to animal welfare. To give you a crash course in social work, at its core, it recognises the multiple and compounding inequities that people face. Improving access to resources and promoting equity are key to my work. Confidentiality, non-judgmental listening, and cultural safety are also key values that underpin Home Together. We specifically use the following 2 approaches in our practice. A trauma-informed approach helps us to see how trauma impacts behaviour and shapes day-to-day functioning, whilst a strength-based approach focuses on what people are doing well, like prioritising their pets even when experiencing significant stress, rather than what they're doing wrong. These fundamentals improve interactions and trust with people and promote better outcomes for animals. I wanted to briefly touch on 3 social work theories informing my work as well. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs demonstrates that when someone's basic needs like food, water, shelter, and safety aren't met, their nervous system stays in survival mode. This might show up as dysregulation when clients present to the shelter to reclaim, leading to heightened interactions between staff and community members. Behaviour as function highlights how the purpose of a behaviour is to keep oneself safe, like a protective coping mechanism. This helps me to separate the person from the behaviour and to consider what's impacting how they're presenting. And systems theory refers to how family, community, and broader societal systems shape people's worldview and impacts their well-being. An example of this is understanding what influences opinions on desexing, such as family attitudes and cultural beliefs. Here are some common misconceptions we might have about the pet families we encounter. Number one, people who surrender don't love their pets. In reality, many will feed their pets before themselves or give up housing opportunities to keep their animals. Surrender is rarely a choice. They're often forced into it by circumstances beyond their control. People who experience homelessness have lots of free time and should be able to easily reclaim within stray periods. But daily survival requires finding food, shelter, warmth, and safety while caring for a pet. It's exhausting, and I've heard it described as a full-time job. There's little capacity left to future plan as they're in survival mode to get through each day. It's often difficult to charge your phone, let alone get to the shelter in stray periods, and stay up to date with vaccinations and registration. This does not mean they don't care about their pets. And number three, people who are unemployed aren't trying hard enough. There are many intersecting factors that can impact capacity to find and maintain employment, like injury, family crisis, or the job market itself. Unexpected vet bills and reclaim fees can be unmanageable and overwhelming on top of everything else. Most people are doing their best despite difficult circumstances. People face many seen and unseen barriers, often connected to the cost of living and housing crisis. Many of my clients have limited support networks, cognitive challenges, and a history of negative experiences with services. This can make asking for help, filling out forms, managing money, and navigating bureaucratic processes extremely difficult. Add stress, trauma, and lack of sleep, and even simple tasks become overwhelming. Some barriers are easy to see, others require a closer look. For example, a client sleeping rough wanted to reclaim his dog. We address the obvious barrier of financial hardship by accessing financial assistance. But less obvious barriers include needing a permanent address and 100 points of ID to reclaim. As you can imagine, keeping belongings like ID safe and secure when you're unhoused is incredibly difficult. Coming into the shelter to collect his pet also meant leaving all of his belongings with a stranger, and yet he was more than willing to do anything to be reunited with his best friend. It is worth noting that a quarter of pet families referred to Home Together had been experiencing homelessness or housing instability. Their pets are a vital source of security and comfort that they may not have experienced from people, services, and systems. The Home Together program supports people on multiple levels, from individual support to broader system advocacy. At an individual level, the first crucial step is building trust. From there, we listen to the challenges they're facing, which helps people to regulate distress and builds their capacity to hear options. We talk about reclaim procedures and council requirements, and through this, we co-create a plan to address the barriers and prevent surrender. Other practical assistance we can connect people to includes temporary pet boarding options, Uber Pets, financial counselling, and food resources for pets and people. In terms of cross-sector collaboration, we work alongside pet charities, community financial services, and housing services. We use resources like no-interest loans for vet and reclaim fees, and have previously supported Launch Housing to utilise a grant for pet boarding by coordinating the logistics and maintaining communication with the pet owners until they're reunited. As part of improving access to pet-friendly housing, we're providing pet behaviour assessments and training to housing staff to build confidence in managing pets on site. This will mean more organisations might choose to implement pet-friendly rooms, and less people will have to make the painful decision of choosing between housing and their pet. We're doing what we can within our resources, but given how prolific this issue is across Victoria, we're also working on an advocacy campaign that's urgently calling for investment in pet-friendly and affordable housing. So, after 20 months of supporting pet families at risk of surrender, we've confirmed our hypothesis that supporting pet owners experiencing hardship helps more pets stay out of shelters. We reunite families with abandoned pets and successfully keep animals out of the shelter in the first place. This success is reflected not only in the lives of the families we've helped, but also in the broader program achievements, which include 265 families referred to the program so far, many of which have multiple pets, so the total surrenders prevented is actually 386. Based on average length of stay, this has saved the shelter nearly $800,000 in care costs and also freed up space for 386 more animals. These numbers reflect more than financial or logistical relief for the shelter. For families and pets, they represent reduced stress, grief, and crisis impact, connection to ongoing support, and positive experiences with the service system, building trust and willingness to seek help in the future. Every statistic represents a family supported, a pet kept safe, and a strengthened human-animal bond. So, after talking about the necessary numbers, I want to talk about the real people I work with and the real impact that is felt. On the slide is Sean and Samson, who received reclaimed support. Sean was facing financial hardship due to unemployment and an acquired brain injury, which impacts his memory and processing skills. I provided him with emotional support throughout to help him regulate and keep on track with the reunification plan. I helped him access financial support to manage the reclaim fees and helped him collect Samson by arranging an Uber pet as he did not have any transport. Sean says he just doesn't function without Samson, and I'm really glad I could help them reunite. This is Katie and her cat Tiddles, one of the very first pet families through the program. Katie was beside herself when Tiddles escaped and fell off the balcony, getting severely injured. A vet estimated thousands of dollars in vet fees and suggested if Katie couldn't pay, they would need to humanely euthanize Tiddles. Living on the disability support pension, with most funds going to rent, food, and medication, she didn't have savings to pay for vet fees like this. I coordinated with Katie's care team and a range of services to pull together the funds we needed and got Tiddles healed and back home. Hearing Katie describe the joy and laughter that Tiddles brings to her life is incredibly heartwarming and makes me appreciate the impact of my role. She still sends me pictures and updates, including the cake Tiddles enjoyed on her birthday, which you can see on the slide. The last story I wanted to tell you about today is about Laura and her dog Buddy, who was impounded after escaping during the installation of safety cameras at their home. Laura was resigned to the fact that she would have to surrender Buddy as she couldn't afford the reclaim fees. She'd recently escaped family violence with her 3 children and was unable to work due to her caring responsibilities. I reassured Laura not to lose hope and emphasised that I would support her through the entire process so she wouldn't have to face this alone. I advocated to council and they agreed to waive half the fee contingent on receiving proof of the family violence. Laura's family violence worker provided this in the form of a support letter which highlighted Buddy's essential role in the family's healing and recovery journey. We also offered to de-sex Buddy at no cost to Laura, which she'd always wanted to do but couldn't afford. Without support, Laura's family would have endured even more heartbreak with the loss of their beloved dog, compounding the trauma they had already experienced. Thanks to this collective effort, we spared Buddy from ongoing shelter stress and ensured he reunited with the family that needed him most. However, it is hard to combat one-size-fits-all systems on a large scale without cross-sector change and collaboration. A large part of my role is finding creative ways to bridge these gaps and build on the hard work already being done. I often find myself really excited about the development of solutions at this intersection of human and animal welfare. Some of these ideas are already in place, but there is an urgent need for sustainable expansion. Some emergency boarding is already happening, but the need for more options and funding is ever growing. It's the people with the most severe hardship that need this support, as ensuring their pet's safety allows them to focus on their own needs. In Victoria, there is no extra public housing being built, despite 65,000 people on the waiting list. Community housing often chooses people with less complex needs, and crisis accommodation is often inadequate and inaccessible for people with pets. We need more investment in housing, and it needs to be pet-friendly. In this program, we aim to link people with support services like housing, mental health, and crisis support. However, these are also often overrun, understaffed, and underfunded. We're clearly seeing systems that aren't working, and more people are falling through the gaps as social inequity increases. To improve circumstances for both people and animals, we need more flexible and better resource systems that respond to people's intersecting needs. One size does not fit all. So I know I've tried to fit a lot into this presentation, but here are the main things I want you to take away. Systems must adapt for equity, not just equality. Small changes to the system can make a big difference, like allowing people experiencing homelessness to reclaim their pets without a fixed address or accepting alternative forms of ID. Collaboration between human and animal services is essential because pets rely on people and everything is interconnected. If we want to improve animal outcomes, we have to think about the people who already love and care for them. Keeping pets with their families is a practical and sustainable solution to reduce strain on the animal welfare sector. We need to build more trust between communities and the systems set up to support them. And finally, people don't respond well to punitive systems. When people are treated with compassion and understanding, they're more likely to cooperate and take on advice, and that collaboration leads to better outcomes for pets, people, and animal welfare workers. I invite the audience to think about how your organisation can reduce barriers for people and therefore improve animal welfare outcomes. Thank you to the Petstock Foundation and Lost Dogs Home for making this work possible, and to all of you across the sector for the compassion you show every day. Today, we're creating a kinder, more inclusive future for pets and their people. And lastly, I want to emphasise that every small act of kindness creates ripples that we can't always see. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your questions.